Okay, we all know on the internet, people always fight Canon versus Sony, Sony versus Canon. Nikon's never in the picture because who cares about Nikon? But they always talk about Sony's better. Oh, but color science on Canon's better. Simply for me, recently I was shooting on the Canon R6 for about a year and a half at this point. I love the camera. I shot so many weddings with it. I did a lot of commercial work, things I really enjoyed. I loved that camera so much. The image quality was amazing. But I decided to make the switch over to Sony, and here's why. But I had a few weddings in 2022 where I was shooting outdoor summer weddings in mid-June and July, and we're talking about 100-degree weather with a little bit of humidity, luckily. And honestly, every single wedding that I had in the summer, which I think I only have 2 to 3, I really had to manage how I shot because I didn't want my Canon to overheat. And it started to become a problem because I knew once it got close to the ceremony, I kind of stopped shooting just because I knew that I needed the extra juice, the extra record time to last me for most of the ceremony. The very last wedding I shot with the Canon R6, I was actually second shooting for a buddy of mine. And I remember I was grabbing the processional, everyone's walking down, all the bridesmaids and groomsmen. Bride walks down with the father hands the daughter's hand over to the groom, and my camera shuts off because it overheated. Didn't even give me a warning, just straight completely overheated and shut off. It was a very hot day, about 100-degree weather outside in direct sunlight with a little bit of humidity. So I completely understand, and I knew it was coming, to be honest. I just was hoping it wasn't gonna be that early. No big deal, I was a second shooter. So my buddy had 2 to 3 cameras extra as well, just kind of roaming. So I ended up having to turn off my camera just to make sure that I had enough record time towards the end of the ceremony to grab the ring exchange and the kiss. And honestly, I barely got it. So after that wedding, it just really feels really awkward being a second shooter for somebody else and running into those issues. If it's my own wedding, no big deal. Typically, I'll have a second body and I'll just kind of deal with it, or I'll manage it, and I'll manage my own expectations at that point. But in this case, shooting for someone else, it was really difficult. I was like, I want to make sure he wants to hire me again. So I was really contemplating on whether either I upgrade to the Canon R5, just because at that point they had just came out with a firmware update that supposedly fixed the overheating, or if I maybe switched over to Sony, which he happened to shoot anyways. Everyone else I shoot with, for the most part, shoots on Sony anyways. And after a couple of weeks of kind of thinking it through, weighing out my options, I decided to switch to the Sony A7S3. I realized over the years that I've shot with multiple camera systems. I started with Sony. My last Sony full frame body was the A7 III. Then I switched to the Fuji X-T3. I switched to Blackmagic Pocket 4K. From there, I went to the Canon R6, and now I'm on the A7S III. And technically, I also bought an A7 IV as well. Every camera system is going to have its issues. It's going to have its limitations. It's going to have something you're basically fighting against, but you put up with it because you enjoy it. You like what the image quality gives you, or you like the features that it gives you, or the flexibility, or the convenience, different things like that. You put up with certain things that you don't like about a camera just because of the pros typically outweigh the cons. And in my case, one of the things I was basically putting up with on the Canon system was the reliability. And that's a really tough thing to compromise on, because if you're on a wedding day and your camera just stops recording and overheats, you're kind of screwed, you're out of luck. If you're at a commercial shoot and you're recording an interview or something, or an event, and your camera overheats and you have to tell the client, hey, can we take a 30-minute break so my camera can cool off? It just looks very unprofessional. And just so multiple things like that, for me, really made me decide that I needed to switch to something that was a little bit more reliable, more robust, that wouldn't overheat, because that was a big thing for me. Just because the way I shoot and the way I'm kind of shooting wedding days in the entire day, I'm shooting handheld and very run and gun. I'm shooting probably over 300 clips, almost 400 clips on a wedding day. It's very difficult for me to kind of just have to give it a break, stop shooting, and just kind of hope it recovers. And one of the big reasons why I switched to the Sony as well is when it came to glass options. Canon has incredible RF glass. I own the 51-2. I swear by it. I think it's probably one of the best lenses that Canon makes that's ever made. I've used a 15 to 35 2.8, and I absolutely love that lens shooting. I've never shot a wedding handheld with that lens as a second camera body, and I absolutely loved it. It looked incredible. That lens, honestly, it was beautiful. It was really good size, not too big. I've used the 7200, which is super small and compact. Incredible image stabilization. I was able to shoot speeches handheld with the R6 with the 7200, and it absolutely worked, no problem. So Canon makes incredible RF glass, but the problem is that they don't want anybody else to make good RF glass. Recently, they actually gave Viltrox a cease and desist, basically letting them know, hey, any RF glass, I need you to stop making it and take it off the shelves. You can't sell it anymore, because only they want to sell RF glass. So right now, they're kind of monopolizing that glass options, where basically they're the only ones that can sell RF lenses. And that makes sense why Sigma hasn't really started to make lenses yet for the RF line. Viltrox started to, but I guess they didn't have permission to when Canon told them to take it down. So switching over to Sony, I knew you have incredible options when it comes to lenses, from very cheap options to affordable, really good options, to even some of the older kind of high-end glass, to even now a lot of the G Master lenses honestly are pretty affordable for what they are. So I knew switching over to Sony is if I wanted to get some good glass, very affordable right away, I could hop on the Tamron lenses. So I had the 17 and 28 2.8 for a while. Amazing wide angle lens. Honestly, if you want to vlog or you want to do family stuff, that lens is perfect. It's affordable. It's under, I think it's $8.99 or something like that. I also have the Tamron 28-75 G2. I ended up getting that as part of a package of trading an R5 that I bought for the A7siii, and honestly that lens is great. I wish it was 24 millimeters, but honestly for the lens, for the price, looks incredible. Great range, just very affordable to be honest, and it looks great. It's like 80% there of what the G Master lens is. So I think that's a great, those two lenses alone, you're talking about less than $2,000, and you have quite a bit of focal range covered. For there you could go kind of older glass, like you can get a lot of the older Zeiss, like the Zeiss 3514, the Zeiss 5518. So many affordable lenses that are made for the Sony that you can buy. They're going to give you incredible autofocus, incredible image quality, and an affordable price. So I think what it used to be back in the day is if you were going to buy into Sony glass is so expensive that I would tell people, actually, it's like, unless you know for sure you're really investing into photography or videography, like buying a Sony wasn't really the best move, just because the glass was so expensive. But now the Canon came out with the RF line, and those RF lenses are so expensive. It's like a race to the top, who can charge the most for a lens. It's kind of nuts. Now I'm telling people, it's like, honestly, the Sony is probably one of the most affordable options when it comes to lenses for camera bodies. There's just so many good options for lenses. Things like I mentioned, the Tamron, all the Tamron line, the 17-28, 28-75, the 70-180. You get the Zeiss primes like the 3514, it's really affordable. The 5518 is affordable. You can get the baddest 8518, incredible lens. The 7200 2.8 Mark 1, you can buy a used for $1,500. The 2414, which I'm shooting on right now, looks incredible, and you can find it used for $900 at this point. There's just so many lenses that they make, even all the new G Master lenses. Well, they're new to me. They've been out for like 3 years, but since I haven't shot Sony in probably about 4 years, they're pretty new to me, and I'm just kind of discovering like their G Master lenses, their primes, they're not that expensive compared to what other brands are charging. Like all the Nikon prime lenses that are coming out with the new Z mounts are super expensive. All the Canon RF lenses are really expensive. They don't really make anything that's affordable. That's their pro line. So with that being said, I feel like nowadays for me, at my point, is switching to Sony was the best move. I can trust my camera, I can rely on it, I can be more freely creative without having to worry about if my camera's gonna overheat, if it's gonna shut off, if it's gonna be reliable. And I have a lot more options when it comes to lenses that are more affordable, where I can kind of experiment and try this out, and not have to worry about, oh, I have to drop $3,000 just to try this lens. Now, this isn't is Canon better than Sony? Is Sony better than Canon? In my opinion, you can pretty much buy into any camera system at this point and have incredible image quality for photos and video, and have great options for lenses, and you can honestly produce incredible stuff with it. So really, at this point, you can't go wrong whether you choose Canon, Sony. You can go wrong if you go Nikon. You can choose Fuji, Blackmagic, whatever you want. At this point, it's about what are your needs, what do you need in the camera, what can you compromise, what can't you compromise, and finding a camera system that basically checks most of the boxes for you. So just look at everything. Honestly, you can't go wrong with any camera system, but for me, switching to Sony was the better move for me. I switched to the A7S III. And it's really an incredible freeing feeling going into a shoot, whether it be a wedding or commercial work, knowing that if I go in there and shoot video, that I know my camera is not going to overheat. It actually lends me to be a lot more creative, just because I don't have these physical limitations of a camera kind of lingering in the back of my mind, where I have to kind of give energy to that, to think about like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work or not, or if it's going to overheat, or if it's going to make it. I've also been starting to shoot more photography more often as well, so I ended up getting a second camera, and that's the A7 IV that I've just been playing around with. I just got it a couple days ago. Honestly, been loving it so far. It has incredible pictures. It's honestly a really good hybrid camera. The only drawback, I guess you could say, is the 4K 60 that's cropped, but to be honest, I mean, I used to shoot on the Fuji X-T3, X-T4. I used to shoot on a Pocket 4K. Like, realistically, is like, I could still make a good image out of it. I could still make it look incredible, whether it's cropped or not. I don't need full frame. So look at your options, see what's best for you. In my case, it's Sony, but for you, it might be something else. Just please don't do Nikon. All right, peace.